Excessive fatigue is the next bullet point, correct?
Correct.
Present from beginning of undergraduate studies, right?
Correct.
Isolationism is the next bullet point, correct?
Correct.
The next one is avoid social interactions, correct?
Correct.
99% of the time will not initiate a conversation. If discourse is unavoidable or avoidant action socially unacceptable, responses will be short or in question form to have the other person be the one talking, correct?
Correct.
And then under that it says, brief periods of invincibility. Actions are in hyperspeed. Developed in last 3 months. Occurs typically 3 to 4 days a week, lasting all day, with possible interludes of catatonia. Correct?
Correct.
Now, in the last 3 months, since the mailing of this notebook anyways, that we would be talking about the spring of 2012, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're referencing.
He's talking about the last 3 months. And if this was mailed in July of 2012, we would be talking about somewhere in the period of May, June, July. Is that fair?
Well, that would be an inference one, I guess, could make. There's no dates associated with anything in this notebook. There are entries that, based on other things known, you can sort of imply a rough estimate of time, but I'm not sure what he's referencing here and developed in the last 3 months. I don't know when this was written, this portion.
You don't know exactly when the notebook was written.
This portion that you're speaking about, no.
And you don't know whether this notebook was written all in one sitting or whether it was written over time, do you?
No, again, well, it's clear that there's portions that are certainly over time. Like I said, there are instances in here that, based on other known knowledge, you have a very close idea of when that entry was made, and that can be the case for a number of entries. And then there are large portions where you can't, I don't think you can say with any kind of certainty when it was authored.
You can't
could.
tell whether it was all authored in close proximity to one another or at different times. Fair to
It's
say.
clear that there are entries at different times.
As we go on to page 33, please, ma'am. I guess we're already there. Maybe not. There's a reference to tiredness. Then there's a reference to quick fleeting movements in peripheral vision, kind of like a light flicker. Other times, dark, splotchy movement in peripheral vision, like a crow or a beetle. Occurrence rate 1 to 3 times per day / night. Onset unknown, but more than 1 year ago. When gaze is shifted to identify movement, no source or potential source for its cause present, correct?
Correct.
The next bullet point, it talks about a proclivity to scan the environment with no target in mind. Typically occurs alongside apathy in a boring situation when someone is giving a presentation or otherwise rambling about frivolous information. Rate often onset child, correct?
Correct. I think the only portion is the second line, no target or object. I think you just forgot to say or object.
Or object. Thank you, sir. The next bullet point, he talks about recurrent return to mirror to look at appearance, correct?
Correct.
Concern with teeth, on to page 34. Concern with nose, and there's continues to be concerns with physical symptoms down page 34. Is that right?
That's correct.
The bottom of page 34, the second to the bottom bullet point talks about an inability to communicate what I want to say. Although I can understand it, typically have an image in my mind but can't say images.
I'm sorry, where were you referencing, Mr. King?
The second to the bottom bullet point on page 34, sir. You see that?
I am. I'm just reading it. One moment. That's correct.
And the bottom bullet point says difficulty in concentrating or focusing on anything for more than 15 minutes, and created a learning strategy of studying 15 minutes, then watching TV and repeat. Very effective, but only in isolation, correct?
Yes, on the second line, it's anything longer than, not anything more than.
Thank you, sir. Now on page 35, if I could have that, ma'am. He makes reference to the real me fighting the biological me, correct? It says that view myself as divided. Is that right?
I see the portion, top sentence, top bullet point, view myself as divided, yes.
And then,
And then below that, there's the reference to the biological me.
right. And the next sentence is the real me is fighting the biological me. Is that right?
Yes, it'd be the third sentence, it looks like, of that paragraph.
Then there's a reference to falling asleep. Third bullet point is back pain. Fourth bullet point has to do with hair pulling. Is that right?
Correct.
First was at the back of the head, quote, bald spot, 10th grade. When someone mentioned it, I was going bald. Someone mentioned it was going bald, it looks like. Is that what it looks like to you?
Yes.
I switched location, sideburns, dash, late high school, period. Widow's Peak, early college, period. Under chin and jaw, late college, period. Most recently, eyebrows and eyelashes, correct?
Correct.
And then following that, on the last bullet point on page 35 is the obsession to kill quotation that you read with Ms. Pearson on direct examination. Is that right?
Correct.
And you read, if we can have on to page 36, please, as well. You also read that first portion above the red line there on 36 with Ms. Pearson. Is that right?
Correct.
Ending with the national forests.
Correct.
And what it says finally there, it says, and finally, comma, the last escape, comma, mass murder at the movies, period. Correct?
Correct.
First obsession onset more than 10 years ago. Correct?
Correct.
So anyways, that's my mind, period. It is broken. I tried to fix it, period. I made it my sole conviction, but using something that's broken to fix itself proved, and it looks like insurmountable kind of underneath there. Is that the way you interpret that too?
Yes, that's what I believe it says.
Neuroscience seemed like the way to go, but it didn't pan out, correct?
Correct.
In order to rehabilitate the broken mind, my soul must be eviscerated. I could not sacrifice my soul to have a normal mind. Despite my biological shortcomings, I have fought and fought. Correct?
Correct.
Always defending against predetermination and the fallibility of man. There is one more battle to fight with life, to face death, embrace the long-standing hatred of mankind, and overcome all fear and certain death. Correct?
Correct.
And then again, we have that symbol at the bottom.
Correct.